good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Kim English Coaches Show here. Men's basketball coach Kim English joining me. My name is Bill Rowan. A pleasure to have everyone joining us tonight. Coach, we got a couple of games to talk about that you recently played, an upcoming contest against Virginia Commonwealth and also George Washington in the upcoming week. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. Again, we want to thank our sponsors, SN Mortgage Company, of course, Glory Days Grill as well. We'll go back to not yesterday's game against Fordham, but we'll go back to St. Joe's on that Wednesday. You guys rallied down 10 with 3:15 to go. You rallied to come back and win that game in overtime. Again, you guys just don't quit. It's been a struggle all game, but you got it done in the end.
Yeah, we're building a lot, just every day, trying to build the program to where we want to eventually be. And, for the most part, other than a couple of games, with our lack of toughness, sometimes our guys always seem to play to the end. And, we're continuing to fight. We did a good job of fighting that game, got some key stops, made some key baskets, and found a way to win on the road in Philly. And it's humbling because as a coach, you've been on both sides of those games. So you know what it feels like. St. Joe's is thinking of what they did the end to lose it. We're looking at things we did well execution-wise to win it, and then the vice versa of last game and in New York at Fordham.
Down the stretch of that game against St. Joe's, I thought one of the key moments, obviously, you're down 10 and you get a stop, a steal on the press, get a bucket. But the back-to-back threes from Schwartz and Cooper, and the second one from Cooper that got it to a one-point game or maybe even tied it. But I thought that was a big moment, not only in that game, but I think maybe going down the stretch here. Cooper hadn't made a three the entire game, yet you guys called his number to come off the screen to the top, a catch-and-shoot three to get the game tied. That's going to do a lot for his confidence to know that you and the staff and his teammates trust him to take that shot, even though he had been 0 for 3 from deep in that game.
Coaches aren't thinking like that during the game. You look at the body of work. If that goes to show you, he's made over 200 threes in his career. He's 40% shooter on this season. They did a good job. The most impressive thing is they executed both of those things without a timeout. So it was really good for them to hear the play call from the sideline and still get it done on the court.
I would imagine that when, obviously we're getting down to the home stretch here, that when Billy Lang, the head coach of St. Joe's, is filling out his top players in the A-10 for his first team, I would think Josh Rodura is going to come to mind because for whatever reason, he's really blistered them in 2 games, 31 the first meeting, now a career high 33 in the last meeting. Josh has played really well against them.
Yeah, I think he said it. I think he said it post-game that Josh has his vote for Player of the Year, and I think he is, and we're going to keep trying to build and win games. You want to be in the upper portion of the league, and the Player of the Year, impacts winning at a high level. So that's the next step for Josh, is to continue to impact us coming away on the right end of the win-loss column.
You talked about being able to have your defense travel, and a little bit of a struggle in that St. Joe's game to open up the second half. But in overtime, you hold them to just 1 of 5 from the field. It was a 3 that they hit, so only 20%. And you talked about it that when it mattered most, the last 3 minutes of regulation, then in overtime, you guys found a way to play defense.
Yeah, we did. We're not defending the way we need to. Consistently enough. It's playing hard. It's playing tough. It's communicating. It's executing. We have to do better, but sometimes it's just a will to find a way, and we did. I don't remember the numbers specifically, but I think they were around 45% in the second half from the field, but we did hold them to 20% in overtime, and that was enough. You want to string 3 consecutive stops together around 6 or 7 times a game. We did it enough to come away with the victory.
The defense, we'll switch to Sunday's game against Fordham. Defense was good. I would imagine if I told you were going to hold Fordham to 50 points, you probably would have felt pretty confident of coming out with a victory. But offense struggled at times. You guys had some foul trouble. Had a couple opportunities there at the end, but come up just a little bit short.
Yeah, 50 points, good. 45%, which they shot in the second half, is not good. Obviously, our offense was the issue at Fordham. They played a junk defense. It's different, right? They didn't guard X. They kept Josh's man inside the paint. And he was a big physical shot blocking athlete. They really stuck to Deshaun and Coop. So it's a defense, man zone, hybrid junk triangle until you don't know what it is. We had opportunities to take shots, and make them. We didn't. Josh didn't have his best game, but he got going for a spell there in the second half for 3 straight. And then we ended up, we called his number again, and it was a turnover that led to his 4th foul. And that changed things. I don't usually overreact to foul trouble, but 4 fouls, it's a little harder to coach and know when to put them in. Put Otis Frazier in a tough spot, getting his first minutes in the second half. I probably just should have went with Josh, and if he fouled out, he fouled out, but go with your best guys when it's winning time. Disappointing loss, but Fordham plays really hard. We're trying to continue to get our guys to understand just how hard you have to play. And, we defended well enough. We needed to be better on offense.
You've talked about, and we've talked about here on the Coaches Show in the past, that you trust guys even when they pick up 2 fouls in the first half. They're going to be back out there. And Josh picked up 2 early ones. He sat for a bit, but he was right back out there. Didn't work out necessarily with Devontae Gaines. He picked up his 3rd in the first half on what was kind of a 50-50 call. But you've said you trust these guys to play with foul trouble.
Yeah, I do. Josh played through his 2 in the first half for a spell. Then he came out and obviously went back in like he always will. Ticket, you don't want, when you do have the second one, you want to be more conservative defensively. I'm not sure on the charge block call. It was a very similar play to the charge that Josh had in that same half of basketball. I have issues with the consistency there, but you don't want to put yourself in that situation when you are playing in foul trouble.
You talked about how they played a bit of a junk defense, but we saw St. Joe's kind of do the same thing as far as backing off Xavier and letting him shoot. And he's responded. He had a career-high 5 threes in the game yesterday. Ended up with a career-high, I think, 19 points in that contest. Teams are going to challenge him to make that shot. Is it something that if he's not on, you've got to find other ways to get other people involved? I mean, were you okay with the number of shots they took? Because, again, I would think most of them were wide open.
I was okay with 11 of the 14 he took. He knows we talk about the type of threes we want him shooting. His percentages in the league are good. It's the how. It's the how. It's the what type of shots that he's shooting, rather just the number of them. If they're the right one, he can shoot 20 of them.
Right.
It has to be the right one. But it was a mix of not just going under on him. It was, keeping our 5-man defender in the paint as well, and locking in to just, basically all out denying Deshaun and Coop. So just as a player, it comes, you gotta do it, right? You have to score the ball to loosen them up. But, good job on their part doing what they thought they needed to do. Obviously, it was some plays down the stretch that could have went either way. Some unfortunate missed calls at the end. Ticket got fouled with 50 seconds left, and Deshaun got fouled on his putback at the end.
And you guys had an opportunity a couple different times, again, down the stretch, and you elected not to call timeout, which, again, we've talked about it. You liked the idea because it wasn't off a made basket. It was off a missed free throw that you could come down, maybe catch the defense off guard without being set up. Looking back at it and seeing what you had available to you, still probably would have gone with the same thing?
No, hindsight's 20/20, obviously.
Sure.
So, I would say, I would love to call the timeout, but I had the ball in Deshaun Schwartz's hands, dribbling up the right side of the court. He dribbled the ball off his foot. We had set up what we wanted. I can't lock into the trajectory of his dribble and see that it's going to go off his foot and call a timeout right before it does.
Sure.
It was unfortunate. We obviously we didn't have any, but we didn't call timeouts at the end of the St. Joe's game. After free throws with our offense, we can get a play call in, and we did. He missed a free throw. We had an opportunity to come down and get a shot. It was very unfortunate, very unlikely situation for him to dribble the ball off his foot in that juncture.
And even though that happened, that came with about 20-some seconds to go, you guys still got a really good, clean look from Hartwell at the end of that game.
Yeah, it was, again, it was for a team that fouls a lot. For us, we only had 2 fouls there in the second half of later. It was a lot of fouls to give. I actually thought we were going to be in the 1-and-1. I maybe had to count wrong by 1. We had to draw an inbound play up for a three. They fouled us, and, a different wrinkle of the same play got Jamal the clean look, at the top. It had to be him because of the way they were locked into Coop and Deshaun. They weren't going to let those guys get it, so we tried to pick on that aggression and get another guy who we know is a good three-point shooter, an open shot. I thought Jamal played really well. He played really hard. We missed him on some shot opportunities in the first half. Both Deshaun and Coop missed him on one more that I think would have got him in a better rhythm to be in better position to make that shot at the end. If he makes those shots, we might not need that shot at the end.
Right, and he did a nice job, drew a charge call, too, in the second half of that ball game as well, out front.
Yep, he did.
So, I mean, for the extended minutes that
he's proven more and more and deserving more and more of his minutes, and he's gonna play more. I went back and watched the game at VCU last season. He played well. He made some nice shots and threes and floaters in the rim. He's a good player. He had a rough patch a few weeks ago where he was out of the rotation, but we believe in Jamal. Obviously, we believe in his ability to shoot the ball, but if he's playing hard and fast and aggressive, it's obvious that he can help us.
All right, before we move on, let's once again thank our sponsors for tonight. George Mason Basketball Coaches Show with Kim English, presented by SN Mortgage Company. SN Mortgage Company, start your journey home today. Security National Mortgage Company is an equal housing lender company. NMLS 3116. Also, thanks to Glory Days Grill as well for their sponsorship of tonight's Coaches Show. All right, step aside from Mason. Let's talk a little bit this weekend. The NBA celebrating their All-Star Weekend 75th anniversary. You're a guy that was drafted to the NBA, played in the NBA for a bit. How cool is it to see as many of the old stars that they could bring back there in Cleveland and get them all in that one place? I mean, I just watching for me, I was like, all the star power in one place at one time was pretty incredible.
Yeah, sadly I didn't get to see any of it. We were playing and then traveling back, and then I got home and dug right into watching Fordham and getting ready for VCU again. But I've seen some clips of it on Instagram, I think, on TV today in the office. I've seen some clips of all those guys. Eventually I'll go back and look at it, but it is really cool. Obviously the 50th anniversary team, they did it 25 years ago with the Leather Jackets, and this year the 75 with the Blazers, the sport coat. It's awesome. It's really cool to have such a collection of talent all in one place and celebrate it for all they've done for the game and especially the league.
Who were some of the guys as you were coming up? Obviously, it was always a goal of yours to make the league, and you achieved that. But who are some of the guys in your elementary, junior high, high school days that you looked at and watched and said, yeah, that's a guy I admire. That's the guy I want to be like? Yeah,
well, for me, from Baltimore, it was Juan Dixon and Carmelo Anthony. Those two guys were my idols. I know everything about them, studied them closely, got to get a relationship with them as I've gotten older, and those guys were gods in my eyes. And obviously Juan winning a national championship in 2002, and Carmelo the next year in 2003. And it's great to see Melo be on that 75 list.
When you look at some of the guys that you looked up to and you hear, say, some of your guys now on this Mason team talk about it, is it almost weird to hear them talk about different guys than what you have? Because your age gap isn't that much. I mean, you're one of the youngest coaches in NCAA Division I, so they probably still have some of the same guys that you might even played with.
I mean, they know Melo, I think, because of his greatness, and he was in the league. But honestly, there is a gap where they don't know some names. Obviously, everyone knows the big names, but it's the others. I was actually with Deshaun. I was at Colorado, and I was doing a workout with him. And I said to him, hey, man, you need to come off that screen and you need to pop up like Juan Dixon. And he looked at me like, who's Juan Dixon? And I was like, you don't know Juan. So there is a difference. They don't know. Like, I think I referenced Ben Gordon the other day. They looked at me like I was crazy.
Wow.
So it's definitely eye-opening, who they know and who they don't know.
One of the other things that this weekend people talked about, how the three-point shooting contest has kind of overtaken the dunk contest as far as exciting. Now, as a shooter yourself, you're probably okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, I love the three-point contest. I think it is exciting. I think you can depend on it more. You can count on it more as a fan. You know those guys are going to make shots, and everyone loves to see threes go in. I think the dunk contest has gotten, and I watched a little bit of it after we had filmed Saturday night in Fordham. I watched a little bit of it. It was it's getting too theatrical, too commercialized. They're trying to entertain instead of go up and dunk. I think some of it is, you have 75 or however many years of dunk contests. They may be running out of dunks. Like, it's only so much stuff you can do jumping up in the air. So I think as the generations goes, I mean, it's only so many dunks you can do.
Only so many times you can jump over somebody or throw a blindfold on, or
windmill, jump from the free throw line. We've seen them all.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's transition from the NBA celebrating their past to George Mason. Basketball is going to do some celebrating of their past as well. Next home game coming up Sunday against GW. We're going to recognize the 2001 NCAA team that won the CAA championship. It was the second time in 3 years. You had great players like George Evans, who was a three-time player of the year. That was his senior year. Eric Herring was a first-team all-conference guy. Had guys like Tremaine Nixon, Rob Anderson, Tremaine Price. Some of these guys are actually going to be at the game on Sunday to be honored. How important is it for not only you, but the guys, the players, to understand the past? And everybody, of course, remembers the 06 team because it was so famous nationally, but there are some great teams in the past of this program that deserve recognition as well, and 2001 is one of them.
It's obviously important. We see those banners. We know those banners. They hang forever. It's you get to see them every day. Champions live forever. Guys that went and played in the NCAA tournament. Eric Herring, who I've got to spend some time with and meet. George Evans, who I've made it clear no one will wear his jersey number as long as I'm the head coach here. We got to meet some of those guys. Disappointing showing, but in our VCU game during homecoming after the game, a lot of those guys were around. It was cool to see our players interact with those guys. I've gotten to know Coach L some, text with him after games here and there. Obviously, Coach Barnes and I are close. I got to meet and take pictures with some of his former players, hear their stories. It's incredibly important, and that is what's disappointing when we don't. It's okay. Honestly, losing. I can't accept losing. I really can. I can't accept when we don't play to our standard. From a competitive standpoint, from a toughness standpoint, that really bothers me as an individual. And a little bit it's because of the guys who wore the jersey in the past. I know when I put on my college jersey, I knew, Anthony Peeler and Kareem Rush and Doug Smith and Melvin Booker. Like, it meant something. Even though I'm from Baltimore and I'm playing in the middle of the country. These guys from all over the world, when you put on this uniform, you need to know it's people that put it on before you, that bled, they sweat, they cried tears for that jersey. And, in the age of NIL and all that stuff, you can't lose sight of that. The toughness, the pride, the tradition of which you put your uniform on is the most important thing. And, that's how we perform for our fans. It's how we perform for the names on the back of our jersey, our families. And absolutely it's how we perform for the great teams, the great players that came before us.
When you talk about that, when you played at Missouri and knowing all those names, was that something that you seeked out yourself to understand the history of it? Was it something that your coaches talked to you about? How did you go about learning about the history there at Missouri?
I just love history. I love American history, world history, basketball history, and when those guys were around, I made sure I got to meet them and spend time with them and hear their stories, because it matters. It matters, and it's getting tougher and tougher. Like, George Mason's in the Atlantic 10 for however many years it's been, right? We have players that have played all over the country that are transferring in, maybe high school. Like, they don't know what JMU and ODU quite means.
Right.
So as a coach, you got to go back and let them know. VCU, there is a history there that needs to be known. Our guys, and it's like, so Deshaun, Tickett, Coop, right? Blake Buchanan, new guys coming in from Wake Forest, Colorado, Tennessee, Morehead State. Like, they went into that VCU game, like, fighting the fight for the Mason team from last year.
Right.
Right, that went down there and won. That revenge is in it. It's in it. And, you have to know that history. That's a recent history, but you have to know that history and match that energy going into a game like that, especially. So we took it on the chin. They got us good.
Well, and that leads me right into the next thing. That's the next game for you guys, is to go down to Virginia Commonwealth, one of the hardest places to play in the A10, and there are a number of them, but going down there to their building. And the odd thing about it, Mason has had some recent success there, winning 3 of the last 4, but it is a tough building to play there. It's going to be your first trip down to play at the Siegel Center there. What have you talked to the guys about it, coming off that game that you say you didn't play up to your standards against them?
Just got to be better. Just got to be better executing on both sides of the ball. It's beyond the X's and O's. We just got to be better, and we will be.
They hit some shots in that game. You guys had a couple. I think about Xavier's shot right before halftime that rimmed out. That would have had it to be a 7-point game, and you guys were getting the ball first to start the second half. Might have made a difference in that, but they kind of came out and blitzed you in the first part of the second half.
Yeah, they did. They started with a pick six, steal in the basket. They made some threes. We called a timeout to push the lead to maybe 16 or 17, maybe 17 or 18. They did. They played well. They played with a great pop. You know, we've watched that film. I could go through the clips backwards in my mind. I've seen it a bunch and analyze it and thought, you know, at the end of the day, we have to be better, and we will. You know, there's a lot of reasons and excuses you can go by. Our 6th game and 11th day, whatever. We just got to be better, and we will. We don't have a deep bench, but we got to be better, and we will.
And have the players talked about that? That may have been, of all the games this year, that they felt like, not that the effort wasn't there, but the results from that effort just didn't come.
No, that was the big. That was our. They beat us the best. You know, they beat us the best. What did it end up? 15 points, but Coop threw in a 3 at the end, so it was really 18. Nevada, Old Dominion. We didn't have X, and VCU. They're the 3 teams that beat us. They beat us, and it's been other games. Other games we've won, and I'm still not satisfied with where we are with, you know, our attention to toughness, our integrity from a competitive standpoint, and we will get there. We will, you know, in recruiting, in the cultivating and the development of our current players, but we will get there.
Just want to jump back real quick, thinking about different places all over the A10. Pretty cool to go up to play Rose Hill Gym at Fordham, right? I mean, that's a legendary building in college basketball, not only in the A10, but nationally.
Yeah, it's a great gym, great place to play. Didn't play well. I'm not into the nostalgia of it. You know, we've played at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. It's you got to get the job done. We didn't. Yeah.
So any arena is a nice arena if you go in and play well and get a win, right? Then it's a great arena to go play in, right?
It's cool. You know, I got to do some research on the study of Fordham, you know, basketball historically. But I mean, I know it's a great gym. I've played in there before as a prep player. But yeah, we don't get caught up in the nostalgia of it like that. You know, we gotta do our job, and we didn't.
All right, we'll get to our next topic here, but once again, time to thank our sponsors for tonight's show. George Mason Basketball Coaches Show with Kim English, presented by SN Mortgage Company. SN Mortgage Company, start your journey home today. Security National Mortgage Company is an equal housing lender company, NMLS 3116. Also, thanks to Glory Days Grill as well. And we want to remind everybody, again, that home game coming up against GW on Sunday. If you want to get tickets for that, call the Mason Ticket Office, 703-993-3270, or visit gomason.com for more information. And we hadn't talked since the VCU game, even though it didn't turn out the result that you wanted. Still a fantastic crowd for that game.
Yeah, I said it late in the game. You know, we were making our comeback, maybe a 12-point game. It looked like it may be out of hand towards the end, one of the last timeouts, and we had a little coaches powwow, and I looked up at our fans, and I said, we just, you know, blew away a great crowd. And it was what I know this place can be, and I'm really optimistic about it continuing to be like that. You know, we're going to keep building this thing and give Mason fans a product to be proud of. You know, the defense is going to keep coming. We're going to be more aggressive, more sound, more tough defensively. The offense is obviously good and fun when we're making shots and threes, and we have talent all around the court, you know. But when we get this thing rocking, I think it's going to be a force and really fun. I've always, even when the crowds haven't been large, they've been into it and excited, and I think we have a knowledgeable fan base. Like at the end of the St. Louis game, the Dayton game, the Bonnie's game, I can feel the energy in the place, and it's consistently gotten better all year. You know, and it wasn't too great at the start of the season, but it improved.
It's like anything, you have to start from square one and build.
You got to build it.
You talk about the threes and it being fun. I'm sure you're aware of this. You guys have set the school record for three-pointers made in a season, and you think about a lot of the great teams that came before it, and obviously the game has changed a little bit, but even back in the mid-'90s when Paul Westhead was the coach here, and it was literally get a shot up in 8 seconds, you guys have still made more threes than any other team in school history, and we still have games to play.
Yeah, well, Coach Westhead, they shot a lot. They didn't make a lot.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, it's obviously credit to our guys for making them, and you know the players for passing them and assisting them. It's a cool record that hopefully we continue to break as we play at the same pace and continue to recruit good shooting.
Talk about something off the court this year, and we always talk about all the different things that you guys do with the players, but this is something that the players did, and that is a 3.0 grade point average in the fall semester. Great credit to them. Great credit to your academic advisor and all the support they give. Mike Ouellette does a great job with them. That's a pretty lofty GPA for a bunch of guys that are pretty much going not only fall and spring. Their sport covers both semesters.
No doubt. I mean, it's a huge honor. Mike Ouellette and that entire group over there, Nina Rogers, incredible. I mean, some of the best I've been around. Playing, coaching in other places, like incredibly invested in the guys, traveling with us on the road, doing study halls. Couldn't be more proud of them. The guys are asked to do a lot. I think fans sit down and think this is NBA basketball, kind of where they just wake up, come to practice, then go home. No, they're up at, we got back from, I think, St. Joe's. We got to travel back, Philly to Fairfax. Whenever we get back, those guys are going to class that next morning after that game, after an overtime game. They're in class the next morning. And treatment, taking care of their bodies, and study hall, and doing their homework on buses and planes and on the road. So I think it takes a special type of commitment for a student athlete to be successful in the classroom as well as on the court. So we've not met our mark athletically is where we want to be as far as wins and losses, but I am incredibly proud of those guys, who had their GPAs above a 3.0.
And some of these guys are in their grad school years, so they're not taking the light, maybe general education classes that some of the younger guys maybe. They're taking serious classes, so that makes it even more impressive.
They are, and it's a commitment. The Mason graduate programs, they are selective, and they are serious and challenging about those guys coming in and being serious. I remember the first time I spoke to Deshaun about coming, he had already did his research and knew what Mason grad program he wanted to be in. Blake Buchanan coming from Wake Forest, and so I'm really proud of those guys.
All right, last thing I want to get to here, Coach, and this is one of the things that you've addressed in post-game press conferences earlier in the season, but it's something that we haven't talked about here, and I think it's pretty important because as a media guy, I'm incredibly impressed with what you've been able to do. You had talked to me and obviously other media people about when you were younger having a stutter and having to overcome that. And I would think a lot of people that watch these shows or see you in press conferences would never, ever even realize that that was something that you've struggled with at times. When was it that you first realized that this was something you were going to have to overcome? And was it when you were a young child, high school, college? When did you realize, hey, this is something that's going to be a difficulty for me?
Yeah, I still stutter, right? It's nothing you ever overcome. I have control of it now. I have strategies and systems that help me speak more clearly and more fluently. I can't remember life not being a stutterer.
Okay.
So from as young as I can imagine, I had a speech impediment or a really bad stutter. And not much helped it growing up. Speech pathology in Baltimore, no offense if any Baltimore speech pathologists are listening, but it wasn't great. It didn't help. it was all through college. It was all through growing up, and I had to develop systems and strategies on my own. There's an organization called SAY organization, and anytime I come across a recruit who stutters or I see someone who stutters, I make my way to them and let them know that I stutter and try to offer my help any way I can. I've encountered a few over my time, talking to a recruit on the phone, and I can hear it, or face to face, and I can hear it, and I kind of put them at ease, let them know that I know exactly what they're going through, and I try to give them I hear when Joe Biden does it now, right? And I can't obviously give him any tips, but I give young stutterers that I encounter some tips that have helped me along the way. There's a great movie. So after I developed my own strategies in life, it was my senior year. We didn't lose many that year. We were 30-2 maybe. No, sorry, we weren't that. We were like 20-2. And we lost a game to Kansas State. And I got home, and I'm in misery after I lose. Still, I'm in complete misery.
Right.
It's the worst. And I'm going to go to the movies because I didn't know what to do. It was middle of the day, so I went to see The King's Speech.
Right.
It's a movie by Colin Firth. And I knew it was about a stutterer, and I went into it apprehensive, like, they're not going to, you see people try to act like stutterers. It's never like a real stutterer. And I watched the movie, and they did an amazing job. They did an amazing job going inside the life of a stutterer. I don't know how they did that with, from something from so long ago, but the strategies that he and his speech pathologist enacted were verbatim things that I use now to help my speech remain fluent. And sometimes I can't control it. If I get super, hyper excited, I've gotten better with it, but it flares up sometimes. Our guys have seen it a couple times. They know that I stutter. They know I may struggle with a word here and there, but it's the best thing if you are around a stutterer, if you see a stutterer, just be patient. Be patient with them and let them, go through it.
What are some of because again, I find it fascinating, but what are some of the strategies that you've kind of developed? You said you did it on your own. It wasn't anything that somebody said, hey, Kim, this is what you need to do. What have you developed? And I'm guessing you can tell when it's coming to then implement those strategies.
Yeah, I could change a word. So if I know I'm about to stutter, I'm like a thesaurus.
So
right?
You got a lot of words at your disposal then, yeah.
I have a lot of words. If I feel me about to struggle with the word, I can switch the word mid-sentence and not have any issues with it. The cadence in which I speak sometimes helps me a lot. I think a lot of problem for stutterers are they try to speak at the same cadence as non-stutterers. It doesn't work. Our brains don't work. Our voice box, the connection is just not there. You have to find your own cadence in which it's best for you to speak.
Did you find issues when you were in college doing like post-game press conferences? I guess when did you develop the strategies? Was it once you became a coach, once you were drafted? Was it in college? When did you figure out, okay, these are things that can help me and I can overcome this difficulty? Or did you have this in college and maybe facing the press after a tough loss or whatever was sometimes hard?
It's always evolving, but yes, absolutely. I mean, you're just in a survival. It feels like a survival mode at that time. If you're in front of the podium at the end, and sometimes my coaches help me. Like, sometimes my coaches, I had a one-on-one interview that was maybe recorded and not in front of a camera. I remember I had an amazing NCAA tournament game, and my coaches didn't send me to do the post game because they were helping me, But it feels like survival mode. So yeah, you develop some of those strategies in the moment, in the heat of the moment to get through it, to do whatever you have to do. But yes, I mean, there's videos of me speaking in college and getting stuck and struggling and stuttering, and it evolved.
You talk about it sometimes flares up when you get a little bit excited or emotions are running high. Do you find it tough sometimes to rein that in the middle of a heated game when you call a 30-second timeout and you got to go talk to the team? Or are you so calm in that moment that it's not a big deal?
No, it's not when I'm angry. It's when I'm happy.
Okay.
I'm a happy stutterer. When I am happy beyond words is when that's the excitement that the stutter. When I'm in those moments where we're locked in and focused, and I'm not even the stutter is conscious. It's conscious. It's conscious. Like at those moments, you're so focused on other things, it doesn't even come to your mind. But what's amazing is the power of the brain and the power of the mind. I tell people this: I made the decision to stop stuttering.
Using your strategies and
beyond strategies,
figuring it out, or?
Beyond strategies.
Okay.
When I got into coaching, I was so knew that I would have to speak, or address a team, or run a workout in practice. I would almost psych myself up. I would get myself so excited. I would be stressing about the stutter so much. I would be thinking about that more than it. And then the moment would come, and I would be so stressed about the stutter. Eventually I got to the point where it's like, no, like, you're not, I don't stutter. I don't stutter. Just go and just do it. I always thought it as a player myself. Like, I had teammates, or I've been around other players that were so stressed about the game. They were so I've had coaches that were so worried about all the negative things in the game. They were so wound tight before the game, thinking about everything that could go wrong, did go wrong. And I'm like, you are putting all that negative energy into, like, think about what we're going to do good. What are we going to do to execute? What are we going to do to play the right way? And that's a mindset. That's a mindset. And that can only come through preparation, where I was so focused on my basketball acumen and knowledge and preparation, I was wasting my time worrying about a stutter.
Well, I think it's impressive, and I'm glad that you are so willing to talk about it and explain it, because I think it will help a lot of people out there, even if it's not with the stutter, but just anything that they have that makes them feel different than the average person, that you can become an NCAA Division I head coach, or whatever it is that their goal is to become, even though you are, quote unquote, the same as everyone else. So yeah. I think it's fantastic. I appreciate you sharing that with us. So we're going to wrap up the Coaches Show again coming up Wednesday on the road against VCU. That's the next one. And then we want everybody to come out on Sunday against GW as we celebrate the 2001 NCAA team and one of 2 remaining home games. So running out of time to see your guys here at Eagle Bank Arena. That's right. We don't get our Rhode Island game. We don't get the Duquesne game, which is disappointing. We have to finish the season with 16 regular season games instead of 18. Yeah, hopefully this is the last year we have to worry about COVID scheduling. But, yeah, it would have been nice to get all 18 in. Yeah. So, once again, thanks to Coach Kim English for doing our Coach English Coaches Show here with Mason Men's Basketball. Thank our sponsors, SN Mortgage Company, and, of course, Glory Days Grill. Once again, come out and see Mason on Sunday, February 27th, as they take on GW.